Hey, friends, welcome back to another exciting episode of Show Me the Collectibles. I'm your host, Cranderq, aka my real name. Now, you might notice me from another podcast. It's called Friends of the Squared Circle. Now, if you check us out on YouTube, that's where you'll find this great interview with our friend Ron. But before we jump into those collectibles, let's just get those sponsors out of the way. Make sure you check out Wrestling from the 313, our boy Mike D over there, putting out great wrestling content, as well as check out Inside Out Nutrition. You can check them out on Facebook.com/Inside Out Nutrition. Bobby Joe is doing amazing things over there with herbal teas, healthy donuts. I know, Ron, you can't believe it. Healthy donuts are out there. But how are you doing today, sir?
I'm just marveling at the current state of the world with healthy donuts, uh, mattresses that can be sent to you and they take like just a small square foot box. Truly, we live in the most interesting of timelines.
It's funny you bring that up because we just bought a new mattress and I was just baffled how small the box was. It was pretty beat up, but like it was about as big as a laundry basket, and that thing unfolded, and it's a queen size bed. So I don't know,
Yep,
magic.
yep. Just think about that. We live in a world where we have cracked the science of how to ship a mattress. Now, some diseases
Froze
out there,
up a
we're
little
not, we've
bit
not
there.
cracked solve
We'll
those
get
yet.
that back here, and it should come back one more time. What was that? Sorry, it froze up a little bit there.
Oh, I said I want you to realize we've cracked the code on how to ship a mattress. Some diseases, getting to Mars, stuff like that. We'll work it out eventually, but mattresses, by God, we got that.
Right? And we have little coolers that drive around big cities now and deliver your food, apparently, too, I've seen. So
Yep,
technology is just too crazy right now.
it is.
But let's jump into those collectibles, shall we, sir? And as always, make sure you plug your pages as well.
Oh, absolutely. So, of course, I am Rambod John. I'm mostly on YouTube now, but I got started on TikTok. That's how we met, was through a TikTok
That's
live
right.
stream. Um, and for me, I collect a lot of things, but I kind of have a big three, like a lot of us do. My big three are wrestling, DC, and then what we're talking about today, Pokemon. Um, Out of the three, I've always been a Pokemon fan. There's literally never been a conscious moment of my life where I didn't like Pokemon.
Okay.
Um, and just to kind of jump right into it, one of my most prized possessions is actually right here. So this is the
That's cool.
original Pokemon game from Japan. Um,
Nice.
so it's in the box. It's not brand new, but the game's never been played. So
Okay.
someone must have like unwrapped it and pulled stuff out and then just popped it all back in. Um, so this was during a time in which they didn't really know what it was. So it was called Pocket Monster Trainer. Of course, in Japan, it's still called
Mhm.
Pocket Monsters, but not that. Um, and it was for the Game Boy. Game came out super late in the Game Boy's life. Like I think the Game Boy was still around for like 2 years by the time this game came out.
Okay.
It still outsold everything else on the system. Um, Now here's the thing. I've shown this off before, and people have asked me how much is it because the American versions of this
Hmm.
can go for hundreds, and in
Yep.
good condition can go for thousands. Apparently, I got this one for 40. um,
Nice.
and it's interesting. Apparently, in Japan, the vintage game market, the retro game market, just doesn't exist. Um,
Interesting.
and I'm speaking in vast generalities here. I'm just talking about big markets, right? In Japan, the emphasis is always on like what is new, what's upcoming,
Hmm.
what's modern. When it comes to games, there's way less of an appetite to go back and play like older games.
Interesting.
Um, which is why you see companies like Nintendo and Sony, they're less willing to just port a game. It's always like, oh, we're going to do a remake, a full-on remake, or at least an HD
Hmm.
version of a game. And it's because if you just port something, you're seen as being lazy. Um,
Okay.
and for that reason, you can get very like rare games in Japan that over here would go for hundreds for very cheap
Nice.
because there's just not a market for them. But the cool thing about this box is this is, of course, original, what we would call Pokemon Red, that has Charizard on the
Hmm.
box. Charizard, even people who aren't really into Pokemon, they tend to at least know who this guy is.
Yep.
Um, and I really enjoy having it, more or less just because Pokemon is such a weird entity when you think about it.
Hmm.
Um, like I'm just curious, man. Like, are you really plugged into Pokemon at all, or?
So I played the Game Boy a little bit.
Mm,
I didn't have one, so like I wasn't, I guess, able to have it at my grasp. But then as I got older, when you come into adult money or teenager money, a friend of mine had the Nintendo Color, and I want to say it was
mm,
Sapphire that I kind of played on the regular. So I played those, first three a few times,
mm,
but it was more the Sapphire that I really dug in. I love the 151. Obviously, I had the cards. I had poster on the wall. I still play Pokemon Go. And
yeah,
people are like, "Oh, you're too old for that." No, sorry, that was my childhood. So like I just finished up some quests yesterday that I have to do. So I'm more of a completionist when it comes to the Pokedex. Like I want the next evolution, and then I move on. I don't
yep,
try to get all these 3 stars or perfects and then evolve them. Nope, I get the bare minimum, and it's like, all right, I hit the candies, boom, evolution. Who's next? So I am a sucker for Tentacruel. That is my favorite
yeah,
Pokemon. I don't hear a lot of people say that. When they came out with Arceus, I think for the Switch, I I played that every night before bed. Uh,
yep.
that one I was like trying to find the most strongest Tentacruel that I could on that game because again that was my favorite, so I always used him. And then it's the pufferfish one. I can't think of his name.
Quillfish.
There we go. That's another one that I absolutely love, and he's my beast on that game. That I just one hit knock out everything when I play all these trainers. So yeah,
Yeah,
I don't collect a lot of Pokemon stuff now, but as a kid I had a lot of it. The Burger King toys, the trading cards, some of the game cards. I didn't know how to play the game, so me and my friends just played it like war. Whoever had the
mm.
higher HP would win, and then you would get that card until you completely knocked them out. So
That's what's crazy about like the Pokemon trading card game is every kid I knew when I was growing up had the cards.
hmm
Not a single one of us knew how to play the game. Like I was a
yeah,
grown adult before I ever actually met anyone or started watching anyone who actually knew how to play that game. Um, it's but it's crazy because when I was first introduced to Pokemon, like I was born in '99,
okay,
um, it was through the anime. And like the
yep,
anime, is like one of the longest running anime of all time now. Um, and for a long time, like I was probably 8 or 9 before I even knew there was a game.
okay,
And it was even older before I realized Pokemon was a game first and then an anime. Um, and it's so crazy to think Pokemon has its fingers in so many separate pies.
hmm
Um, and more than that, like it's the single largest media IP in the world. It's like the single most profitable property in the world. Like I think it alone is like $18 billion, billion with a B. Um, it's insane. It is insane just how much Pokemon stuff there is.
and the
Um,
crossovers nowadays are just
oh yeah.
everywhere. You're seeing more
Mm,
apparel. You're seeing the skateboards that just came out. I think that was kind of towards the beginning of the year. Those um, multiple skateboards you could get, and then find the gold or the silver ones of those. I, I mean, again, I don't collect anything Pokemon, but it would be kind of cool to have some, you know, artwork. I guess eventually when I get a bigger spot. As you can see, I'm a little jumbled behind me, but you know, it's a soft spot in my heart. It's a game that I played all the time as a kid. I had stuff. It's that nostalgia. Now you can get toys for pretty much anything. But back then it was just a few things. So,
I'm having a bit of technical difficulties on my end with some audio. That's my
oh,
bad.
gotcha,
I had to switch
gotcha.
out headphones.
Okay, gotcha. No worries.
Yeah, sorry about that.
This is just a basic show. We're not high production. We're not Logan Paul. We don't have the fancy $5,000 microphone. We just have our phones and a tree light that my beautiful wife bought me. So
Nope.
falling on a budget.
Nope. We're making it work though.
That's right.
But we've talked about the game. I think I really want to show off is a lot of people think that like the longest running merchandise line for Pokemon would be the cards, right?
Okay.
Or maybe the Tomy figures. And those guys go all the way back to the beginning, but they're not the oldest. The first long running line of merchandise Pokemon had, all the way back in 96, were finger puppets.
Oh,
So, like, I'll pull out this Charizard here. So, 1996, this guy came out, literally the same month the game came out. And it was basically you go to the store, you buy a blind box, you got two pieces. One box had the Charizard body, one piece had the tails and the wing. You put them together, you got a full Charizard piece
nice.
of candy with it. It's a candy toy. Um, I say it's a blind box. It's not necessarily that, like you know what you're buying.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like you pay a quarter nowadays, it's like $2, and you get this finger puppet. These guys have never left Japan. These are like a Japanese exclusive line of merchandise, these finger puppets.
Interesting.
And they're about an inch, 2 inches tall, about they've done every single Pokemon. There are Pokemon whose only toy are these finger puppets.
Hmm.
Um, so it's wild that it's this long running line, a successful line, a line that's still going today, and they've just never been brought over.
I
Um,
think that would be something that the U.S. could definitely market with the constant, evolutions,
yeah,
the shinies, as well as, just in that first generation, there's 151. So that's 151 toys that
mm,
you could have people being sought after.
exactly. Um, but it's one of those things where, like, as much merchandise as we get over here, we don't get a fraction of what comes out. Like Japan, there's so much stuff. Um, and that's games, toys, clothing, plushies, everything. There's so much more that just never leaves Japan. Because as big as it is here, it's always going to be bigger back in its home country. Um, and that's wild to think about because over here, Pokemania happened.
Yep.
And, Pokemon Go happened. And the cards started going insane. Uh, so it's really fun just to think like this is a thing so huge that we have a mountain of stuff, and yet it's literally just the tip of the iceberg that ever leaves.
Crazy
Um,
to think about.
it is crazy to think about. But what's even crazier is how quickly Pokemon was successful. So, like I said, this guy came out in '96. He's, the original design of Charizard, so he looks wrong now.
Hmm.
He's too tall, neck too long, flame too small in the back, wings too small. Literally within the same year, because these finger puppets are so quick to produce, they make a second Charizard that's more accurate. And it's a stouter Charizard, wings are bigger, but it's also roaring. We have a happy Charizard here, more kind of angry, screaming Charizard here, who is literally directly modeled after the game. Like if he had fire coming out of his mouth, it's literally just the same Charizard artwork that they molded this puppet after. Um, and then this Charizard was special because it was one of the first Pokemon to get a chase variant out of these finger
Oh, nice.
puppets. So they started off just doing translucents, and I have a few of these translucent guys. Nowadays, you can get shinies in the finger puppets.
Hmm.
Those are completely random, and it's like 1 out of 1,000. I have almost 1,000 finger puppets. I do not have any shinies. That's how
Oh,
rare these guys are. Um, but those guys all came out in 1996. We can fast forward just a little bit, get to 2002. We had another Charizard. This one's more based off the anime, so you kind of have a little bit bigger wings, different color orange, a little bit more kind of a inquisitive or happy looking smirk. And because you can't go too long without Charizard, when was this guy made? 2006, we got this
Okay.
Charizard. So this would have been around the time of Pokemon Emerald and Ruby when this game
Okay.
came out. Um, and I'm not big on this one, just the fire breathing. But like it's cool. Um, 2008, nearly 2 years later, next Charizard. And this is pretty similar to the first one, just kind of updated proportions,
Hmm.
better paint. Um, but still pretty cool. And
And
then
those
there's a
are
little bit
all
of a
finger
hiatus, a
puppets,
little
you
bit of a
said,
break.
right?
What?
Those are all finger puppets, you said?
These are all finger puppets.
Very interesting. Cool.
And speaking of like them being the first for a lot of things, the first figures you got for the Mega Evolutions. So
Okay.
in X and Y, Gen 6, they realized that hey, a lot of these older Pokemon, they're still beloved. They're just not as strong as they used to be. So they gave a lot of the old ones like new temporary evolutions that can make them stronger for battle. Charizard got two.
Yep.
So he has Mega Charizard Y, which is more based on like let's make him a really good flying type, and then Mega Charizard X, which is when he became a proper dragon type.
Okay.
So depending on the version of the game you got one of these two Mega Charizards. Um, and then finally, the most recent of these Charizard finger puppets that came out last year is this Charizard that just fell over. I love this one. It's literally just he fell down, tail between his legs. He doesn't know what's going on. It's great.
You're definitely going to have to send me a link or somehow to find those because my niece is obsessed with the Eevee evolution. So
Ooh.
I would definitely have to find some of those for her. She doesn't watch my episodes. She's not a cool niece. That's why she's my second favorite. I'm
Oh.
just taking digs at her, so she watches my stuff. But yeah, I'll definitely have to keep an eye out for those because she loves the Eevee evolutions. So
Oh, absolutely. Um, and like I said, the thing that's amazing about those finger puppets to me is that they've been a continuous line, never took any breaks. They were the first ones made. They're still made today. Um, and you can only get them in Japan. Uh, meanwhile, over here, most of the time we don't get finger puppets. We get some of the plush.
mhm.
We get most of the action figures, but also for the early days, some of the action figures weren't even made by the Pokemon Company. You mentioned Burger King earlier.
Mhm.
And sure enough, for a long time, a lot of these guys, if you want to toy them, you had to get the Burger King version. Um, so I have my Burger King Charmander. So Burger King did not do all 150 Pokemon.
No, I think they did like what 20 or something or.
Something like that. And it was like a mixed media type of deal. So like I
Mhm.
have this guy here, he's just static on an acrylic base. But then there were some that were like golden trading cards.
Yep, I
There were
remember
some that
those.
were
Yep.
plushies. Some of them got keychains. So it's like they did a massive toy line for the Burger King Pokemon, but they weren't all in one style, even. Um, and in all honesty, there might be more figures in that than like any other Happy Meal release because they did a lot.
Yep.
Um, um, but then the final kind of two things I want to start to uh, close off on is one, and I really like this guy. I have a old issue of Game Informer, and the whole reason I own this is one, I like Legend of Zelda, I like
Mhm.
wrestling, I like Pokemon. This is a magazine that has like all three here on cover stories because they have a article about WCW Thunder in this issue. But my favorite thing is up there in the corner, Pokemon. We have found the locations of all 150 of them.
Man, that was the internet's before the internet's. Like
Yep.
that's awesome. Yeah, I
Um,
man, I sucked at that game. I still suck at games, but like, just being able to find them all would have been pretty sweet.
oh, but that's the thing is like if you wanted to find them all, right? It would have been next to impossible to do it by yourself because you need
Mhm.
both games,
Yep.
you need a link cable, you need two Game Boys.
Oh yeah, and you
Um,
got to do the trading and stuff, right?
yep.
Yep.
Um, but my favorite thing about this is they didn't realize Mew was in the game. Well, I mean Mew's not in the game; it's an event.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so nowadays we know it's 151. But in the actual like base game, there's only 150 because Mew wasn't supposed to be released over here. Um,
Really?
yeah, which is crazy to think about because Mewtwo is in the game.
Yeah.
Mewtwo is the de facto final boss. Um,
Hmm.
but Mew was an event Pokemon, and it's something they still do today where it's like we'll have a Pokemon, and back in the day it was you have to go to like a special location and trade a Pokemon to get the event Pokemon, or it was you have to nowadays it's just you log online on a specific day and you maybe put in like a gift password and you get it immediately sent to you.
Hmm.
um, but for years, because there were a handful of Mews that had kind of glitched into the game, there was like this schoolyard rumor about the 151st Pokemon. How do you get it? What's its deal? And it's one of those crazy things where it's like there was no internet, and yet everyone knew that final Pokemon was Mew 1 or Mew. Um, and eventually they made the Pokemon movie, and that was supposed to be like the grand reveal of it.
Hmm.
But like Pokemon as a company, they've gone on record. They said like, yeah, we never wanted to release Mew over here. We never thought there'd be a market for it. Um,
Interesting. Yeah.
and essentially someone had like a Game Shark and hacked it into the game, and that rumor just started making the rounds is that there's another Pokemon in the game.
Game Shark, Game Genie. Wow, flashbacks, man. When you
Yep.
had to, yeah, that's. I remember like we were at a bookstore, and they had like the Game Genie book where it would give you stuff, and me and my
Hmm.
buddy would just be writing stuff down like so we could take back to the house because we didn't have $25 to spend on a book back in the day. Like
Yep.
man, now you just if you don't know what you're doing, you just pull up YouTube and say help.
Yep.
I've done that for Red Dead because I was trying to get all the what was it, the legendary creatures in there, and there's a few that I couldn't figure out. So I was like, all right, well, all I gotta do is type it into Google, and sure enough, there's
Yep.
YouTube videos. So thank you, streamers and gamers, for doing all the hard work for me.
Absolutely. Um, and thank you to all the liars out there for making Pokemon magical because you look at like why did Pokemon work, right?
Hmm.
And there's so many reasons as to why it became so big. But I think the big ones are Pokemon was the game where there were schoolyard rumors that were kind of true. Um, because Mew was actually in the game. And then there's a glitch Pokemon called Missing No that's in the game.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and it's like you have to go to Cerulean City and get into the water and get to a certain part of the map and just hang out there. And then literally just like a weird barcode will show up with the name Missing No question mark. And it has the bird type, a type that
Okay.
doesn't exist in the game.
Weird.
Um, and it's basically like I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a Tentacruel, but for whatever reason, all the junk data of the game just all loaded into that one spot. Um,
That's fun.
and if you capture it, you get 10 or no, you get 199 of anything in your inventory. So there was people who were able to get like 100 Master Balls for capturing Missing No. Um, so those two things are real and they exist. And then you hear all these rumors that are like obviously fake, like, oh, Yoshi is in the game. Or, oh, there's another type of Pokemon called the Pokegods. Um, and the reason people fell for them is because Mew and Missing No are the most like BS rumor you've ever heard,
Hmm.
but they're real.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to go and see if anybody's got that on YouTube just to watch
Yeah.
that pop up for sure. So
Did you know gaming? Like they had a really good video about all
okay.
that.
All right.
But now to send us off happy, the final thing I want to show is this was made by a local artist here in Savannah. I adore it. It's a little crochet
That
Charizard.
that's pretty badass.
I love it. I love it so much. Um, this guy, he's always on my Christmas trees whenever we set up, and he's just great.
Hmm.
And that's the thing, right? It's like, regardless of how big it is, like Pokemon's affected so many people that you get just really cute art pieces like this. Um,
Yeah.
and I love it. I love his little nubbins. I love his little tail in the back. He's perfect.
And the thing is, too, is like, growing up, I remember getting a hard time about because I had a little binder with cards in it. Um,
Mm,
I had it wasn't the game cards, but it was another pack that was released back then with all the Pokemon characters on it. I had a foil Charizard, probably worth like $5 to me, but it was super cool. And that's the one thing about collecting is if you're passionate about it, you're going to find happiness in it. It's
mm,
going to lead to another community. That's how you and I have met.
yep.
You've been on a couple episodes now. One we have to basically say doesn't exist because audio, but it's very cool how things can lead to other things.
Mm,
And I got a soft spot for Jurassic Park back there. That was the first movie that ever sucked me in. That just made me believe, holy cow, dinosaurs are real.
mm,
So yeah, enjoy the fandom, folks. There's so much out there. You have a beautiful collection. You guys need to go check out his TikToks, the YouTube stuff. I still got to give you credit for that Five Nights at Freddy video. Uh, just just that one spot you and I have talked about where you like get up in your buddy's face. It's priceless. Y'all got to go check out his stuff, man. It's great, and I can't appreciate enough. I know I say that off camera a lot too, but where can they find you, sir?
Well, right now my home base is definitely on YouTube. Um, I just enjoy posting there a bit more, and I have a little bit more kind of control with scheduling videos there.
Mhm.
So YouTube, Rambon to John. I'm on TikTok as Rambon to John, but I'm a bit less active there at the moment. Uh, I'm on Instagram as Rambon to John. That one I more or less just have open to communications. I don't really post anything there.
Mhm.
Basically, if I'm on something, I am Ron Bonda John, and I'm on Twitch as Ron Bonda John. Um, so if you're ever curious, just look it up, and it's such a stupid username. I can guarantee you that if you find someone, it's probably me.
Yeah.
Either that, or I have a Bizarro that I'm just not aware of.
And before we get you out of here, we got a couple hard hitting questions because show me the collectible brings the hard hitting questions. Not
Of
really,
course.
but if you had to pick your starter Pokemon with the original three, obviously I think I already know the answer, but let's just get it out of the way. Who are you picking?
Blastoise.
Okay, you're gonna go with Blastoids. Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your go-to type? Do you go for
Ooh.
grass, fire? Are you a water guy? What's your type?
Um.
Sounds really weird the way I'm asking it. I apologize if that comes off weird.
No, no, no.
What's
It's
your
it's good.
type?
Um. My favorite type is actually the ground type.
So which one? Sorry.
The ground type.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so
Different,
like
different.
Sandshrew, Garchomp, Swampert, Quagsire.
Okay.
Um, it's a type that people don't really talk about because it's not as like powerful as Fairy or Dragon.
Hmm.
Um, but when you look into it, it's like it's one of the best defensive types in the game, and there's only two types that can really mess with it. So yeah, like ground type is where like if I was a gym leader in the Pokemon world, I'd be hanging out with my ground types.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I'm a sucker for water. I like Tentacruel. I like a lot of the flying ones too. Okay. Full disclosure, I am definitely afraid of small birds. I hate them. I don't like
Yep.
them near me. I don't want anything to do with them because my aunt had a parakeet and she tortured me all business with it. I hate it. But I like the bird type Pokemon, like the flying ones.
Yeah.
Um, I can't think of his name. The toucan one. That's one of my go-to ones to drop in the gym because a lot of people I don't see a lot of those in the gym, so I like to throw that in there because I always like to think, oh, somebody was like, oh, look at this Pokemon, he's really cool,
Mm.
So, and I do like the Slug one too, the lava Slug one. He's pretty cool too.
Ooh,
So,
Slugma.
yep, and
Yep.
Lechonk because he looks like me. Lechonk, he's my spirit animal. They just dropped
Oh,
him in
that's great.
Pokemon Go a little bit ago, and I'm just like, I would take you everywhere. I would take you everywhere.
LeChuck is great. That the last generation, they had some amazing Pokemon names. Um, Another good one was they had Smoliv, the small olive,
Oh, okay. Yep.
and your Flamigo. So there's a Flamigo that is your friend. So he's Flamigo, amigo with FL at the front. They literally
Gotcha.
just drop the N, and it's Flamigo now, your buddy.
Then there's one more. It's the fire. I want to say fighting type. The pig one too. I don't know. I
Oh,
gotta think the
Embor,
pigs. Yeah. So what's that?
Embor.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm really bad with names. I just give them like, oh, swan type, like throw it out there. But alrighty, sir. I appreciate you for coming on. Well, I hope to have more episodes with you to dive into that beautiful collection. And if you all out there have a collection you want to show off, send us a message through Facebook at Friends of the Squared Circle. That's our wrestling channel, as well as Show Me the Collectibles. We have the Facebook going there. We're getting that rolling, as well as you can find us on YouTube under Friends of the Squared Circle. And as always, show me those collectibles. Ron, appreciate you. We'll get you on the next episode here.
Oh, that sounds great. Thank you, man.
Perfect. All right. Cranderq out.